Hi friends, I'm Ashley and welcome back to my channel. So today I have a video that I've been meaning to do for a while but also have kind of been putting off because it involved taking all the books off my bookshelves, which is always a daunting task. But I'm happy to say that I have finally done that, and so today I have a bookshelf reorganization video for you that will also include a tour of my bookshelves. So last time I really did a thorough organization of my bookshelves was back in 2023, where I posted my first bookshelf reorganization and bookshelf tour up on this channel. So it's been about 2 years since I have really reorganized my shelves, and so they have really needed it. I'm actually filming this intro after having already done the reorganization, so that's why I am currently filming on the side of my bookshelves instead of in front of them like I normally do. So without further ado, let's just hop right into my bookshelf reorganization footage. These are what my shelves looked like before reorganization. And then recently this year, I got these two new bookshelves that are tall and narrow, and I saw these on Amazon and I saw that they had them in pink and I got really excited, and I had like this little narrow space on the other side of this room and I was like, ooh, maybe I can put some bookshelves there. And so I got these two new bookcases. So right now I've just kind of thrown some books in them. Whatever like didn't fit in my other shelves is over here, and right now there's just really no rhyme or reason to it. Then in addition to my bookshelves, I also have this random pile of books on my floor at the foot of my bed. And this pile has been here for way too long, so I really need to get rid of it. I also have random books and manga just like stuffed into this cube shelf that is also in my bedroom as well. And so all these also need to be organized. And I also have a separate shelf for my mangas, so all the manga that's over here needs to go over there. And I'm thinking of using this shelf as my TBR shelf, so I want to put all my unread physical books over here so they can stare at me. So the first thing I did was go through my shelves and pick out all the books that I wanted to unhaul, because I don't need to like own every single book that I read. I just want to like own my favorites, books I really enjoyed. And I end up unhauling about 20 books, and so I think I'm going to make a separate short little video where I go through all the books that I'm unhauling. And most of these books, like besides for a few, are books that I enjoyed, but I don't see myself like rereading again. And I really only want to keep books on my shelves that I'm gonna plan to reread at some point in the future. And then after doing that, the next step that I did was going through my bookshelves again, and this time pulling out all the books that I have not read yet, so I could make a separate place for them over on my cube shelf. And then after that, I finally moved on to taking the rest of my books off my bookshelf so I could figure out exactly how I want to rearrange them all. So I've cleared up these 3 shelves and I dusted them. And so I'm trying to figure out how I want to arrange them because I want to set it up differently than how it was before. And originally I was going to take all the books off the shelves and have these completely empty and then start putting books back into them. But there's already so many books like on my bed that I think I'm going to set up these 3 first and then continue on, because otherwise I feel like it's just going to be way too overwhelming with too many books everywhere. And so I'm thinking I want to do my favorite YA fantasy books on this shelf. And then on this one, I want to do my books with pretty sprayed edges and have the edges facing outward. So I'm gonna work on those. This shelf has some of my favorite fantasy romance books on it. And then the shelf below that has the books with the sprayed edges, and I really love how this turned out. This is like now one of my favorite shelves on these bookcases. And then the shelf below that has YA fantasy. The shelf below that has more YA fantasy, and a lot of these are ones that were my favorites that I read when I was a teenager. And then the last shelf on this bookcase has more fantasy romance with my Throne of Glass books. And these, I actually have not read all of these, but I kept them over here rather than on the other shelves with the rest of my unread books, because they would take up so much room over there, and I kind of want to keep the series together. So I've only read books 1 and 2 of Throne of Glass so far. And I was buying them as I was reading them, but then the old covers were going out of print, and I like the old covers better than the new covers, so I wanted to get them all before they would be unavailable. So that's that shelf. And then my second shelf, so my Shadowhunters shelf did not really change. I just add the coloring book at the end here. And so I just took everything off, dusted this, put everything back. And then the second shelf here is my cozy bookshelf. And this one I also kind of color coded, and I really love how this one turned out as well. Then the third shelf down here is my Once Upon a Broken Heart shelf, which I had this shelf before. I just moved its location 1 shelf down. And this one is also still one of my favorite shelves. And then below that, I have a shelf with more YA fantasy. And then below that is another YA fantasy shelf. And then the last shelf on this bookcase also did not change. It still has my Harry Potter and Aragon books and my Hunger Games books. And I just took everything off and dusted it and put it back pretty much the same way. And then over on my pink shelves, I pretty much just put the books that wouldn't fit. So the first shelf, I have a lot of my contemporary romances over there. And I also put my Twilight books over there. And then I have a little shelf with some of my other Once Upon a Broken Heart books. So I took some off of the other shelves, off of the black bookshelves, in order to give myself some more room over there to display things the way I wanted. And then I have my spectacular books over here. And I have a little cubby with some books that kind of fall reads, with my little fox on the top. And then I have a shelf with my Freerun plushies. So these bookcases are kind of the overspill bookcases, and they still have room on them for any future books that I get, and also eventually the books that are on the TBR shelves, once I read them, they're either going to go over here or they are going to be on hold if I don't like them. So that's a tour of my shelves. I am really happy that I finally got this done. It took me an entire day to do this, but I'm glad that I got it done, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye!